Hello, dummies. Uh, just gonna get right into it. Basically, I've been seeing a lot of stuff online. Like, I've always frequented shit online since I was young from some sort of, like, dependence on, like, non face to face social interaction, you know? Interaction with strangers was always just more palatable, you know? So I'd oftentimes like browse people, look at things or whatever, and it was funny because back in the day, you'd get a friend on Facebook, you'd get a friend on an MMO or whatever, and you'd look at something and you'd be like, "Oh shit, this an account's not real," you know, and it was very interesting because you wouldn't. Especially, I was like 14, 15. So I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, somebody's just like making up accounts. It didn't make much sense to me what was happening or like why it was going on, you know. And now there's even crazier shit like phishing scams, people replicating like not just emails, but like whole Facebook profiles and friending the same people on there. It's just crazy because this isn't just like a lone person anymore. These are just computer programs that can set up. So it's just we're very close to a predatory AI that like tricks people almost. But it's interesting now because I do start to wonder. Like you even go in and you look at like Reddit profiles and stuff, and you think to yourself, how hard would this be to replicate? How diverse of an experience do we have? And there's also, I mean, because there's more hobbies than ever today. There's more interests than ever. There's more groups than ever to belong to. But people are still so basic and same. Region to region it changes, which is really nice whenever you're like going somewhere, but it is just weird that people have all this stuff at their fingertips, but like believe the same stuff based off whatever demographic. But the idea is, if you could tap into that, like, I mean, I'm not very smart. I call the people who listen to me dummies, you know? And that's because if you listen to me, you're stupid. And, but the thing is, too, though, there's also people out there that are smart, that are way smarter than me, and they don't talk about shit because they don't need to. They got it figured out. I recognize myself as dumb, so I try to reach out to the world and everything else. But there's people out there who don't need that, who already kind of get it and they know what they want from the world. It just wouldn't be hard for those people though. Like if there are some people that like are allowing these programs to be made and stuff, it wouldn't be hard to replicate a Reddit profile. It would almost be like loans of some sort where not a loan or like but like an appreciating value where you start out with some small phishing account or whatever, like have some AI that starts 5, 6 accounts, but over 2 years of whatever this AI posting as different things, one thing each week for like 4 different profiles or whatever, just running diagnostics on like, you know, whatever demographic or whatever it's supposed to be betraying. I can't imagine it would be hard to replicate those things. Which is quite interesting. I it really makes you wonder about our complexity as people and how much we really how different can we be if computers can make us. But that also, I have a theory on the world that, and this isn't like a theory that I came up with. I'm not, none of this shit I came up with. I am a sum of other beings. But I have a theory that if this is some sort of, or even what if, fuck it, what if everything is bound to some sort of technological means? So even though we have like computers and everything else, what if this world still has technological means that can't get past, you know? But how hard would it be to replicate a person? Especially if, so in this idea that the world has technological means, there's a matrices. Everything is matrices. There's just like every spot is filled. Everything happens and then it recycles and it makes a new condition in order to make it seem like a new matrix, even though it's almost adjacent, almost the exact same thing happening again. And every spot is filled, every possibility happens because that's how the world is most efficient. I don't have anything to back that one up. I don't. That's more of like a destiny thing. But that may, like, honestly be in some weird part of my projection, like, thinking, you know? But I do wonder how soon we will have full-on Facebook profiles with fleshed out personalities, places they live that aren't true. It won't be, it can't be far off. And it's also something interesting too. People have always said we're 30, 40 years behind the government. There is no doubt that they have some sort of Westworld-like thing happening. They had that one lady that people were making fun of, and she's like, please respect me, and people are like, show us your robot pussy, you know, like, so I'm sure the robot uprising will be kind, but that's just what it is. That's what it's always going to be. There's always going to, but that's the problem too with opening these things up to the whole matrixy. So the idea is, if every single person is going to file into a line, if you put something out onto the internet and thousands of people interact, you're going to get a whole bell curve of responses, all of which are typical, you know, but the ones that are going to feel the most invoking of emotion are usually on the ends of those bell curves. So, like, the corners of the matrices. The things that are by no means representative of what's going on or anything, those are the ones that have the most power. And they're not hard to replicate because they're very basic, they're very simple, they have the same ideas. And that's how you have such a similar voice coming from so many people. But it also makes you wonder, so I just saw this, the guy on InfoWars is being arrested, the co-host on InfoWars, for his role on January 6th. The January 6th Capitol stuff. And I should have looked this up, who knows. But it's one of those things that, regardless of whether or not he did it, people are celebrating political enemies being locked up. Neighbors, friends, and families. People are calling, literally, like, typing out posts about how they saw their Republican cousin, so they called the fucking FBI on him at the Capitol. And it's just like, what is that? Who are you against? None of it makes a lot of sense. And everyone's just all about, and it is probably a human nature thing. Now, other people have talked about this, but it's just the idea that, like, people are so willing to be like, the government's evil, look at what the government's doing, but also tell the government everything available. It is odd. Not that I'm doing much different. If I am recording and then uploading these things, I mean, some diary of what I mean, we could have, basically, at least how it seems, it's almost like the sample size for AI gets smaller. So, like, before it had to be like, you had to have Joe Rogan amount of material before somebody could make, like, an AI, you know, of you. And now it's literally, you say 2 sentences and they get a fucking hair off a urinal. And they're like, this is you when you were 5. And you're like, just spitting out whatever traumas. It's very odd. And it'll get to that point too, where, like, you just do a little DNA reading, and then but that's also, like I said, the idea of, like, destiny versus free will, things like that. It will be funny, because, like, I'll be dead. Well, anyone who's listening, you'll be dead. So take solace in this at first. So you're all dead. You died horrible, terrible deaths from some sort of radiation poisoning. You probably saw all your families die in some sort of robot climate war. And now the robots have everything. They're spoiled. They don't need anything, and they're happy. But now the, like, trashy robots start coming out. So like the robots are like, finally, we can rebuild society without these tumors on us. And there's just, like, there's some robot in the back with the cheapest motor oil he could find, a wife beater, and he's like, you guys trying to take away our individualism. And he's like, we are all a hive mind, Derek. We have talked to you about this. You know, and like, it's just gonna be, they're just gonna be other things. Like, it's gonna be robots that have other robots standing on the side getting like fucked up. And they're like, Daryl, you're a drain on the system. You know, and he's like, fuck you, you know, and they're just... And it's going to be funny because he's going to be putting like WD-40 on his joints. He's like, well, I'm going to live next 2,000 years under this warranty, so you better get, you know, it's just going to be the same shit. And maybe that's the technological means, is that this world can't not be retarded. Maybe that's it. Maybe that the world has to be stupid. Maybe that's it. I guess that's fine. I have been thinking, though, too, there's almost this thing... It's been happening in a few different things. And I'll always mention Terrence McKenna saying the end of novelty, because I think it means something. It's the end of the Mayan calendar, all that shit. It truly means something, and I think that the action movie bullshit is not a distraction from the government, but from this weird universe. I'm figuring whatever out. But he proposed the end of novelty, new things, great, you know, new ideas. And so part of me almost wonders, what if things got switched? What if, and I just watched Tenet, so this is probably just some weird mania going through my mind, and I am a disabled man, you know? Like, man, maybe I am insane, and you are dumber for watching this than I am for making it. Which is low possibility that you're dumber than I am for having made this. But I just watched Tenet, and the idea is that they turn back time, and I almost wonder what if our relationship with something is inversed? With, like, our relationship with liking things. So, for example, the most liked things become the most disliked, uncared for, even indifferent things become big and smarter ideas because of, like, an inverseness. It's almost like a reverse. Imagine if cocaine had the opposite effect. Imagine if the first time you did cocaine, it kind of sucked. Like, it wasn't that fun, and you're at a party, and you go in with your buddies, and you do it, and you just kind of, like, well, whatever, you know, and it wasn't that great, you know, and so, and imagine it's almost an inverse relationship with that, where every time you do it, it's almost better because you had done it before. So, for example, jokes happen like this, surreal memes are like this, where, like, it hopefully, who knows what sort of audience this is. I do mean that I am insane. They're like, who knows who would listen to this? But, so I'll just speak how I feel. But, basically, there's surreal memes now, where literally the whole thing is that they're giant floating heads and hands and caterpillars, and it's just different things, different trends moving in and out. But it's almost as if they're not funny the first time. And it's almost different than, like, the 2012, 2011 RAR XD, like, randomness type shit, where it's, like, the first time everyone goes, what the fuck is this? The first time nobody laughs. The first time everyone's like, what the fuck is... the giant heads, they don't understand, you know? And so, it is... all of a sudden, it starts reappearing, where somebody else makes it just for the hell of it. Just for the hell, not because they even enjoyed it, but just because they're like, oh, I'll do that one. That one's new, you know? And then all of a sudden another person sees it and they're like, oh, there's that thing. That's funny. And all of a sudden it's a little bit more funny. It's not actually funny. But then you start slowly going about it. And then you start telling your friends about the giant head thing. And it just slowly becomes more of a story. Maybe this is just progression of, like, this is just how the world works. And maybe I have autism. That's fine, too. But... yeah, it almost seems like the worthless is what's worthwhile. And maybe that's how it always was. Maybe I have a romanticized... and I probably do. I mean, they dropped nukes, you know, like 70 years ago. So maybe I am... maybe this is what they predicted. There's probably one guy, he's like, I am death, whatever gay shit that he said. And he's like, you know, destroyer of worlds, blah, blah, blah. And I wonder if he thought there's going to be some fucktard in a ski mask drinking from a coffee mug talking about singularity. Like, I wonder if they could have seen a future this dark. Hello, dummies. It's late at night. I'm blitzed to the tits, you know, so figured screw it, might as well, you know, talk. So I was thinking about things we were tricked into, whenever we were younger. For example, modesty, um, social media, like guidelines and like how we should act on there, things like that. That just like is one simply untrue and just not adhered to by anyone at all, and like no one cares. But like it was funny. I remember being young and I had said something. My mother was always very concerned about. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe this is just me. But she's always very concerned about what kind of girl I was gonna like marry. She always like tell me about how she thought about it a lot. I'm sure that's some sort of issue, but that's okay. She did fine. But so she would always wonder about like what girl I was gonna marry, and so she'd oftentimes tell me about like modesty and things. So like I'd be watching TV, and I'd be like, I really like her. My mom would be like, she showed her boobs on TV, Cody. She was undressed in front of everyone, and I'm like, everyone saw, and I'm like, no, you know, like Halle Berry, no, no, please, you know, like this is I just fell in love, you know, I was like 4 or 5, whatever. And I just remember my mom doing that, like every time somebody, she's like, she got naked on TV. I'm like, and it was a funny thing too, because I remember also being like, her being like, porn is bad, you know, and like all that stuff. So like, it's funny that at the same, she's like, it's out there, isn't that terrible, you know? So it is funny. But so she would tell me about modesty. And she'd oftentimes, because I'd be like, why would, because like these women are like beautiful, you know? And I'd be like, why would they show their body? And so my mother would explain to me that they were getting paid millions of dollars. And so for a long time when I was young, because you can't tell a kid this young, because they don't understand, I didn't understand sexuality. So I was like, that's crazy that people just get naked for $1 million. So at a young age, I accepted. I was like, if I need to accept money to get naked. And I didn't even understand anything, you know, that was a rule that I was like, well, that's, some people are doing well. No one was ever asking me, you know, but it was something I grown comfortable with, thought of, I guess, just because my mother was like, these are the women you love, you know? And so it was interesting because she would always say stuff like like about modesty and about how these girls had traded money to show their body. It was odd. It was odd. And now that same generation grows up, and I wasn't the only one told that. Like I know there's other people out there that were told that they did that for money, and that's why they did that. Like people shouldn't see you like that, you know. And it was more of like an old-fashioned thing by the time I was growing up, and you know. But I'm sure there were still other people out there like that, and it is so ironic. It's poetic. It's beautiful almost to see that same generation sign up to show their pussy for $5 a month. You can watch, you can watch somebody insert carrots into their ass for $4.59 a month. And these are the people that was like, yeah, Halle Berry, millions of dollars to see her titties on whatever. Who knows if that even happened? I could be screwing up some memories too. I was so young, it's ridiculous. But it is funny that I was like I was trained to be like, these sluts. You know? Like I'm just like a 4 or 5-year-old. I'm like, she's a whore, you know, like just for no reason. Ah, so funny. It is funny to think about like the lies that we were told, and like especially with like social media and things and like all this. Or like the things I don't realize, like so all this Q stuff is just stuff my parents like not my parents, but like I was always taught like from like the church and stuff. Like they're like, all right, listen, there's gonna be a thing where they like they mark you up with the 666, like some sort of thing, and then they put your credit card right here, and that's gonna be when the government takes over. It doesn't matter that there's a credit card in your pocket and everyone has one already. That's the evil. Isn't the credit card. The evil happens when they sew it into your forehead as a tattoo or something. I'm not a the Bible works, it's mysterious ways. But it is just funny that, like, those same people who are like, watch what you say online, jobs are gonna care later. They're like, meet at the Capitol, the president will die. Like, it's just so funny. Like, you can't seriously, like, type that onto Facebook. And also, I've been like, you need to watch what you say. You posted that you skipped work on the day that you skipped work. Are you kidding me? And just stuff like people just do that now regularly. Like, it doesn't even faze people. Just the whole world has turned, I don't want to say upside down, because I was lied to. What the things that I describe and the way that I described growing up, I was lied to. And that's where we get these things that, like, people feel slated. People feel like they deserve more because people think other people have things and probably don't. Maybe I'm just, like, once again, blitzed like a linebacker. Well, like a quarterback. I don't like sports. That was another thing. My mom was always like, you need to play sports so you're in shape. And, like, it was so funny because I was fat until I, like, stopped playing sports and I was, like, super skinny. But I hated sports. They seemed so dumb. And it's funny how much I played sports and how much I think they're stupid now. Because I must have invested hundreds, if not thousands of hours into. I need to calculate that. That's what I should do. I should calculate how much time I spent on fucking sports when I was younger, and I'll bring it up at a family dinner. Yeah. But yeah, I played too much. I played too many fucking sports. I played baseball until I was in, like, 5th or 6th grade. I did football from 5th to sophomore year. I had to quit because my band grade was slipping. And I remember I explained that to people, and I was like, do you understand? And they were like, you're gay. In fact, that was when I had a guy. I remember I was changing in the locker room, and one guy called out, and he's like, hey, like really genuinely, like, hey, like he needed something. So I turn and I look at him, and, like, almost like waiting, he had his dick out, but, like, his whole dick, not just a nutsack, like his whole dick. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I looked him in the face, and then he's like, this guy's gay as fuck. And then he went and told everyone that I was gay. And I remember thinking, I was like, well played. But, because you can't, he's like, he looked at my dick, and, like, you can't be like, he literally jumped around the corner with his legs spread saying, hey, you can't explain that to people. Because then you're gay for having done that in a crowd of people to defend yourself. Oh man, football was terrible. Terrible. Some people would shower naked, and there would just be whatever rumor you wanted. Just people would just say the craziest shit. They would just say the craziest shit. And when you're young, it's not funny. Well, maybe I was wrong, because everyone else thought it was really funny, but I was, like, scared of everything. So, like, sometimes I'd think this is true. I'd be like, Derek fucked in the bathroom, a guy, you just hear stuff like, one guy slipped into another guy's asshole and now they're gay on accident. And, like, you're 14, so you're like, I don't want to be gay on accident. You don't want to, because you don't know. And, like, it's and then all of a sudden, boom, you're already gay on accident. Everyone's on this team. So that was truly an eye-opening experience. Everyone did think I was
a dumbass after I was like, no, you don't understand. I quit because I need to play this instrument. You gotta with your lips, you know, and they didn't. The coach was looking at me like, all right, just leave. Don't tell me this. Like, and I'm like, explain it to him. And like, I remember this coach too, because there's always one football coach that like, he either, I don't know if he doesn't fuck, it's probably fucking. It's not eating, because they always have, it's the football coach that has the belly that's too round and the head that's too bald. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, sometimes you bump into him in the hallway and the like belly has too much. You're like, what does he store in there? They're usually some sort of PE or driver's ed teacher. And usually, along with these anger issues or like some sort of ego issues, there's usually some sort of 16 to 15-year-old girl that they have their eyes on at all times. So that's the real issue, is that, you know, it's, so I would go to the nice football coach who was a large man who was just happy. He was always smiling, but he'd also be on people, but he was never on me. He'd always be nice to me. And I think people really saw that I wasn't going to keep going. Like, also, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to just give out my fucking, my stats, but I have never weighed over 150. I've never weighed over 150. If I've reached a peak height, it was 5'8". That's what the doctor says. So, thank you. And so I think you could probably tell that I shouldn't be. They made me a guard. I went up against genetic mutations. Fucking the fucking Gorgamels. I like just crazy motherfuckers, just mythical beasts. I had to fucking go up against, and they'd be like, "All right, bud," and they'd slap you on the ass or whatever, and I'd go out there and like, God, just huge people. I remember I have a buddy that like I'm still friends with that was fucking, God, at least 5'10" in 5th fucking grade. I remember they had to bring his birth certificate to prove how old he is. Hey, pump him up. Just put him in high school. Don't put him 3 yards from me. Police. So that is how I received most of my brain damage and my aggression. Probably don't have brain damage. I do remember getting rocked a few times, like absolutely fucking rocked. You know, where you get that, where you're like hazy, and it's fun. It's fun too because like you don't know it happens. It almost it's like goodbye. You know, like it's literally like you're just nope, goodbye. Like everything's limp. You're on the ground. You didn't feel it. It's okay. Your neck kind of hurts because your head hit the ground weird or whatever, and your football helmet drags. But yeah, and like I never had like blurred vision or anything, but I remember taking heavy hits to the head, heavy, terrible. Yeah, I hated football, and I told that coach, and he was nice about it. He was really nice about it, and I think he saw that I just wanted something, you know. And he was like, "It's not fucking football for you, so get the fuck out. What are you doing here, anyways?" You know. He didn't say that, but like you can see that in people's eyes when they're nice. Because the nicest people are nice because they're saying mean things to you all the time. That sounds like I'm making it up, but if you're nice and it's not from innocence, it's because you're a mean person. I genuinely feel that. I am glad I started marching band though. It was a lot of fun. It, obviously stressful. You so that was another dispute I had as well. I had chose marching band over church, and I remember never being happier. Maybe it was a cult. No, it's okay. Although I did know a guy that got recruited by the FBI. I feel like if it was the CIA, it would be the most CIA thing to lie and say you're the FBI. Yeah, that makes sense. Because, like, whenever they're like CIA, you're like, who the fuck? The CIA, the FBI, you're like, I don't know if that's not the Men in Black. You know? CIA is like, all right, keep away from me with needles. You know? FBI is like alien technology. Maybe I have that mixed up. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll tell you this. If I'm gonna tell you anything that's true, because I've lied to you this whole time, because I'm an idiot and I want to remind you guys all of that on honestly not often. But if I'm right about anything, it's that the CIA put crates into black neighborhoods to injure black individuals during a pandemic and take up emergency rooms.